Hey guys, welcome back to my YouTube channel. For those of you when you hear, my name is Chido, and to all my returning subbies, hey, what's good, what's poppin'? I missed you and I know you missed me too, but I'm here now. Today I wanted to chat with you guys about something I have learned to appreciate in my own personal life that I feel like a lot of people might struggle with, and that is the appreciation of the different seasons that you're in. You know, like last week was Valentine's Day, and I know for a fact there are some people who are in a season of singleness who are not happy because they were being love bombed by other people's like love and stuff like that, and you sometimes can get to a place where you're like, okay, when is it gonna be my time? When, God, like I'm also ready and whatever, blah blah blah. And then there's the people who they were love bombed by people's relationships and people's friendships and love for each other. They're wondering, when am I gonna get friends who do things like this? And then there's other group of people who are probably like, it's a global phenomenon, like unemployment is on the rise for everybody in the world, doesn't matter where you are. And sometimes you can get to a place where some people are being blessed while you feel like you're in a perpetual state of just getting tested time and time again. Sometimes you're not, like, you try like to look for jobs and you're not finding them. You try to start a business, it doesn't work. You try to do certain things and it doesn't work, and all doors keep closing and you're just wondering why. And sometimes it's heightened more when you see other people around you have their doors being opened, and it's kind of like, okay, God, when? And I feel like this is actually like a personal testimony and from personal experience, I feel like the society we live in right now does a very poor job at getting people to appreciate the seasons that they're in. And the other day, Fungai said something very interesting to me when he was like, you know, what I find funny is every single thing that God wants us to do, the devil has something that is the exact opposite that he has made popularized. And one thing that I've actually realized that actually links to what I want to talk about is how God and the Bible in Ecclesiastes talks about how there's a time for everything. Everything has a season, and we need to appreciate the different seasons in life that we're in, right? And then on the flip side, the world and culture and society tells you that you'll be happier when you have more money. You'll be happier when you get married. You'll be happier when you get a new job. You'll be happier when this happens. Like, it encourages us to always like jump and hop and skip to the next thing without actually really sitting and appreciating something for like the thing it really is. Like, I remember there was a time when I first met Fungai. He had passed his CAs and his chartered accountant exams in Zimbabwe, and he was already thinking, okay, now I'm gonna like start, like the minute the results came out, he was like, okay, thanks, and I'm just gonna move on and start doing the CPA, like the one for the US. And I sat there and I was like, dude, you're not gonna like want to celebrate? You don't want to even come for the ceremony? That's weird. Because for him, he was kind of like conditioned in a place where you're just always like, okay, this is done, it's time to move on to the next thing, now what, right? And we had to stop and appreciate the one thing and actually, like, you know, kind of like sit and revel in just how much it took for him to get the certificate, to the things he had to go through and overcome, and the way God showed up for him, blah blah blah, right? And like me, for another thing, is when I first got here, I was always like just stuck on, I have to get a job, I have to get a job, I have to get a job, I have to get a job. I'm not gonna like feel like accomplished, or I'm not gonna feel good or worth anything if I'm not working, because I'm not contributing, I'm not doing anything with my life, life sucks, I just want a job, I just want a job, I just want a job right now. And a lot of people, when I talk about it with them, most specifically my mom's sister, she would always be like, Chido, you know, if you just appreciate the time that you're in right now, where you still have the luxury to do all the other things that you can without being held down by something, the time to work is gonna come and you're gonna be so swamped up, you're not gonna have time for anything else, and you're gonna sit and think about those days. And in that moment, I just thought to myself, bruh, this Kwan doesn't even get it. This lady is like tripping, like she does not understand what I'm talking about. And then I started working, and I was like 2 minutes in, I was like, okay, okay, I should have like slept in a lot more. I should have like worked out a lot more. I should have done all these things a lot more because now I don't have time to do it and it's not as nice. And I feel like that's the world we're put in. Like we are put in a world where you're forced to, and you're kind of convinced and programmed to believe that better and more is on the other side of what you're currently experiencing, when the truth is, if you just stop and look at the season that you're in and appreciate it in its entirety and look at the benefits rather than the burden, you'll actually understand and appreciate that there is a reason why you're in that season. And in that season, you might actually be able to flourish a lot more in parts where when life changes, you won't be. You know, I don't remember which chapter it is, but I think it's like 1 Corinthians 7. Let me see. Hold on. Yeah, so it's 1 Corinthians chapter 7. I think it's the whole chapter actually. Like if you read the whole chapter, but I just wanted to focus on this part. On verse 32 to 35, where Paul is talking about just like marriage and like seasons and whatever, right? And like stuff like that. And he's like, I want you to be free from the concerns of this life. An unmarried man can spend his time doing the Lord's work and thinking how to please him. But a married man has to think about his earthly responsibilities and how to please his wife. His interests are divided. In the same way, a woman who's no longer married or has never been married can be devoted to the Lord, wholly in body and in spirit. But a married woman has to think about her earthly responsibilities and how to please her husband. I'm saying this for your benefit, not to place restrictions on you. I want you to do whatever will help you serve the Lord best with as few distractions as possible. And you know, like in this case, he's talking about like married people, but I think it can be applied with every season in your life. Like before you get married, you are free to, like, if a job offer pops up right now and says, if I was married and I got a job offer right now in Australia, I pack up my bags and leave. I am not tied down to anything. I can wake up whenever I want. If I want to choose to eat bread only for dinner, I'll do it. If I wake up and I choose that I just want to not clean the house, I can do it. If I want to go and like do missionary work somewhere, I will just do it. Nothing stops me because I'm not committed to anyone or held down by anything. All my attention and focus can be like set on the things that I want to do. But when you get married, you can't do that. You don't have the luxury to do that because you always have to think about someone else. You know, like every time I talk to my friends with kids, right? It's like, especially like most of my friends who have children, most of them are like toddlers and like they're still tiny. They're still like at the place where they're very dependent. And like even like some of my family members that I'm really close to have kids, they're still very young, right? And all of them, one thing they do have in common. The other day, one of my friends was like, when I asked her how her daughter was, she was like, this girl thinks that like the whole world revolves around her. And it's true. Like children do have a tendency of thinking that because for them it really does, right? And because of that, a lot of parents, mothers and fathers, they don't have the luxury to just up and leave. They can't just like wake up today and be like, you know what, I feel like taking myself to a spa. How? When you've got a little pickaninny following you behind you, right? You can't just like pack up and just do a road trip just because it's summer and you feel like doing it, because you have to figure out, okay, where are we going to put this person? You know what I mean? And it takes me back to a place where I'm constantly reminded to appreciate the season in my marriage that Fungai and I are in, where right now we can genuinely focus on each other and our own careers and our lives without having to think about like children. I mean, I don't want to call them distractions, but without being distracted by kids, right? Even how like sometimes when I talk to like some of my married friends, and they talk about how they have to wake up and pray at night. Sometimes, this one time I was like, but wait, why am I waking up at 3 o'clock to pray? I am a stay-at-home wife. I can like spend my whole day in prayer if I want because I have no distractions. I don't have kids. If I arrange my day, I can arrange my week and my day such that I can spend the entire day praying. So I don't have to be up at 3 o'clock in the morning praying for a specific reason. I can do it for the other 24 hours of the day, right? And this comes with the realization that every single season is unique in its own way. It presents its own unique set of challenges. And if we don't appreciate the seasons as they are, when they go, you're gonna be the person who's sitting there full of regret, stuck going, ish bruh, man, I should have been, man, I wish I had been a fitness bunny before I got pregnant. I wish I had been like traveling a lot more before I got married and before I had a kid, because now I can't. I wish I had tried to start that business earlier on when I still had like a lot of like disposable time to my hands. But because we're always chasing the new, we're always chasing what's out there and the other side and the greener pasture, we forget that the one that we're currently in, if you water it just enough, you will be so happy and so content with your life that nothing else matters. You know, I've heard the analogy that like life is even kind of like when you're running a marathon. Have you ever seen people who run a marathon? They don't run a marathon and do this like every time. Like if you try to run a race and you're constantly looking back to see what the people behind you are doing, you're not gonna be able to like run your race well, because you're always just gonna be falling, because you're not seeing the hump that's in front of you, you don't see the pothole, you don't see the branch that's right in front of your feet, right? And it's the same with life. Just like a marathon, we're all at different parts of the race. There's some that are gonna be ahead of other people, some that are gonna be behind. But Chikuru is mesemurumanya. Like, and the problem is if people start to look beside them and look next to them and look behind them and focus on what the other people in front of them are doing, it messes up your game. That's when you start to try to run fast to catch up to the ones in front of you. But the problem is their pace is faster than yours, so you're gonna get fatigued out and tired before you even get there. And then if you keep looking to the side, you're not gonna be able to focus on what's in front of you, because you're always like every 2 minutes. If you look behind, you're gonna get hurt and you're gonna fall because you're focusing on things you have no business focusing on. And that's what life is like when we're in the different seasons that we're in. If you are single, if you are unemployed, if you are not a mom yet, if you are praying for a breakthrough, whatever, I'm not saying don't pray for better. I'm saying pray that God reveals to you what he wants you to learn in the current season that you're in. Because I remember for me, like when I started like developing that thought process, it was after a point in time where I realized that, you know what, I understand God. Like, God is not the type of person who's gonna be swayed by our impatience. Like, he's okay, well, he's not a person, but you know what I mean. Like, he's not gonna be swayed just because Chido feels uncomfortable and Chido wants to like figure something out, right? Like, he's gonna like just sit and wait for you to get it together. And then when you get it together, then he'll be like, oh, bestie, I've been waiting for you this whole time. Like, where have you been? Like, friend, twin, where have you been? Like, type thing. And it's like one of those, if you don't sit and realize that there's a world of opportunity right in front of you in the season that you're currently in and lessons that you have to learn, you will miss the blessing that God has for you. Because sometimes it's in learning some of those lessons that he's gonna elevate you in life. Like if you're running and you're running and you're running and you're running, you're not gonna like stop and like look back to where you came from. You're always just gonna keep moving, because just like a marathon, time is passing you by and the more you like focus on other things, right? And I feel like that's another thing that the devil tries to take away from us, that God has specifically told us is ours. God is always encouraging us to look forward, look to the new. Behold, I am doing a new thing. He doesn't say, behold, I'm doing an old thing. Fresh fruit, like, you know, he wants to always do new things in us. It's kind of like even how like when you open your Bible today, you can read the same Bible passage that you were reading yesterday, but today it's going to tell you something new, right? God is not a God of doing things backwards. He doesn't hold people's pasts against them. And so sometimes in life, when you're in certain seasons, you've got to always remind yourself that what happened in the past and the person you were in the past. Now, I'll give you an example. if you know me, you know that I'm currently on like a weight loss journey, right? Like when I moved to the US, I gained like 15 kgs, and Lord knows it has been a nightmare trying to like shit it off. Like it has been the worst thing. And you know, one thing that I realized about me, when I tell you that like I don't know like which category this falls in, but I suffer from severe body dysmorphia. Like Fungai will tell you, I will literally stand in front of a mirror anytime I get a chance to glance at myself. I'm gonna do it. Like bestie, I'm gonna like, you know those people when you're walking and there's a store glass, they're just staring at themselves. That's me. Like I will literally like catch a glance. Like that's how like I'm working on it. God is working on me. I am obsessed with the way I look, right? And like when I gained the weight and I got like all this body dysmorphia thoughts and whatever, it really shook me. Like I'm telling you, like I was like, you know what? Like I actually think that's one of the reasons why I became so depressed. Like, and it's like to someone else it sounds stupid and it sounds petty, right? And the whole time I kept looking and thinking, instead of like coming up with a better plan and a better way to actually like look forward and make myself better as a new person, like because like weight gain also comes with like a lot of factors, age, hormones, and like the way you grow. You're not gonna look the same way you did when you were 18. But could anybody tell me that? Me, I would like keep a profile picture everywhere of me when I was like in my early 20s and when I was at my peak. And I even started using the same fitness plan that I was using back then, and it wasn't working the same way until one day I had to realize that, you know what, part of the reason why I'm stuck in this loop of body dysmorphia and just sadness when it comes to the way I look, and like, if you know me, you know I love taking pictures. I love having pictures taken of me. I love being in front of the camera. But I went through a phase where I didn't even want to be in front of the camera, and it just made me so miserable because I didn't like the way I looked. And I realized that was one of the ways in which the devil was lying to me by keeping me stuck in my past. You know, when you're stuck thinking about the past your past glories, and this is how a lot of people in life don't move on, because you know how like even how we talk about how like people are stuck in their glory days, or how like there's this like running question of why millennials are always stuck reminiscing. We will reminisce on the shows we used to watch, the R&B music that was back in the day. We will reminisce on how life was different, TV was different, life before social media. And the more we reminisce on the past and the things that used to be that way, kind of like how even in relationships and in marriages, people will reminisce on the partner that they had 3 years ago, the way they looked, the way they behaved, the way they talked, and the way they did things. And the more you do that, the less you actually see what's right in front of you and what's ahead of you, because you can't be looking both ways. You can't be thinking about focusing and daydreaming about past happenings, past versions of society and life, and also simultaneously focus on what's actually happening in front of you. And I'd even argue that sometimes the constant desire to like focus on what happened in the past, the way things were back in the day, how we were raised back in the day, the society we were raised in back in the day, how there was like more reverence for things back in the day, kind of puts us in a place where we end up with so much anxiety because you want things to go back to the way they were. But newsflash, it's never gonna do that. It's literally never gonna do that. So we have to kind of get to a point where you build a bridge and like start to not only get over it, but like the more you live in the reality of the way things are, the more you can actually start to appreciate the good that's around you. Because the more we continue to like, focus and fixate on what used to be, the less we're gonna actually see what God is trying to do for us right now and what He has currently done for us right now. And I don't remember which pastor said this, but they were like, if you're not gonna do anything this entire year, it would be thankful. Because we forget, when we get sucked into desiring different seasons and different places, we forget just how faithful and good God has been in our lives and just how far we've come. And I feel like sometimes in order to appreciate where you are in life, you have to actually understand where you are in life, and not just be thinking, oh, I'm gonna be a millionaire, I'm gonna have this, I'm gonna have that. Because realistically speaking, how do you even know that when you get to that place, if you can't even appreciate right now, you're gonna be happy then? It's kind of like the same as how, like, finance people will tell you, and even the Bible, he who is faithful in a little is faithful in a lot. And like, finance people will tell you that, like, if you have bad money management when you have $100, baby girl, even if we give you $100,000, you're not gonna become better at saving. If you never could give when you had a little, you're not gonna be a big giver when you have a lot. We're always waiting for the right season or for the right time, because that's what people tell you, that you can do things right when you have all of these things. But sometimes the right time and the right place is right where you are. You just have to change your perspective and your mindset to be able to see it. And I feel like this is all I wanted to say. I think we've come to the end of this video. I just wanted to give someone hope that the season you're in, it's not hopeless. God can do a lot with you in this season. You just have to change your mindset and your perspective, and just ask him, Kuti, God, what do you want me to see? What do you want me to do? How do you want me to be better? How can you use me in this season? Because if we keep treating God like he's some genie in a bottle, like we're Aladdin, and he just grants wishes and you're just asking for more, asking, we're just gonna, like, life is gonna pass you by and nothing is ever gonna add up. Because one thing about God is he's not gonna give you things just because you feel like that's what you want. Like, he's gonna give it to you because it's what you need. And the only way to be able to know what you need is by knowing why you're in a certain season and understanding it and living in the totality of just the fullness of where God has you planted in that time. So anyway, thank you guys for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see you guys next week.